It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today we're going to talk about the 2020 edition of the Philadelphia Eagles. And before we get started, let's take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the season as we go into our 4-minute offense. One of the major storylines worth keeping an eye on this training camp and this season for that matter is the impact of losing Brandon Brooks to an Achilles injury that will keep him out for the entire 2020 season. Brooks was expected to be one of the pillars up front along the offensive line for the Eagles with offensive tackle Lane Johnson and center Jason Kelce. Now, his loss puts the Eagles' offensive line in a tenuous situation. Expect them to look toward veteran Matt Pryor to step into that role while expediting the process of getting rookie 4th-round pick Jack Driscoll out of Auburn ready to go. And what has seemed like an Eagles media and fans talking point over the last 3 seasons finally got addressed this offseason, and that's revamping the receiving core. The Eagles took 3 wideouts in the 2020 NFL Draft, Jalen Reagor out of TCU, John Hightower out of Boise State, and Quez Watkins from Southern Miss. All 3 guys are known for their speed. So is veteran Marquise Goodwin, who the Eagles were able to acquire via trade, and it's also what has made undrafted free agent MANASSEH Bailey out of Morgan State such a highly attractive prospect for them. Speed, athleticism, that was something that they wanted to improve at this position, and it's safe to say that they've accomplished this goal this offseason. Another area where the Eagles sought to improve was at cornerback. Being able to make the move and trade for Lions corner Darius Slay was a big one. First, it helped them land a premier player, one who is amongst the best in the league at his position. And second, it took corner off the list of major needs heading into the draft, giving them the ability to take Jalen Reagor in the 1st round. Slay immediately becomes the best corner in the division, one that has the Eagles hoping that he will be able to eliminate an opponent's #1 wideout each and every week. In an attempt to help improve an offense that was solid but not spectacular last season, the Eagles brought in some fresh eyes at offensive coordinator and at wide receivers coach. At OC, Marty Mornhinweg is tabbed as a senior offensive coordinator after spending the 2016 to 2018 seasons as the Baltimore Ravens OC. Now, he has 25 years of coaching experience in the NFL, and that should help assist Carson Wentz in getting into the elite category this season. Rich Scangarello also joins as a senior offensive assistant after spending last year as the Broncos OC. He's done extensive work with quarterbacks and the passing game at the collegiate level before making a full-time jump to the NFL back in 2017 with San Francisco. Now, he has had brief stints in the NFL before, back in 2009 with the Oakland Raiders as a quality control coach, and in 2015 with the Atlanta Falcons in the same capacity. Aaron Moorhead is tasked with getting the most out of the speedy group of wideouts as he's the new wide receivers coach. This is his first year coaching in the NFL, and he's no stranger to the league, though, having played the position for the Indianapolis Colts from 2003 to 2007. We'll see what impact these 3 additions can make in 2020, considering we are in a unique offseason situation with COVID-19. The Eagles hope that they can help transform their offense into one of the more explosive units in the NFL. I thought last season was Carson Wentz's best season as a pro. Now, it didn't start out that way, but it finished both strong and impressive, which to me definitely matters the most. What he did the back half of the season, considering the situation at receiver and with a small margin for error to reach the playoffs, reminded me a lot of what those John Elway-led Broncos did in the mid-'80s. It's unfortunate that Wentz wasn't able to see the whole thing through, suffering a concussion early in the playoff game versus the Seattle Seahawks, which partly led to the Eagles strengthening the QB2 role on the roster in the draft with the selection of Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma. Now, Hurts graded out as our #2 quarterback in the draft class, whose game reminds me a ton of Dak Prescott. He arguably gives Philly the best backup quarterback situation in the division, and one that they can develop and groom to either take over for Wentz if he can't stay healthy, or one they can use as trade bait for a quarterback-needy football team down the line. Either way, adding Hurts and having a healthy Wentz gives them a very strong quarterback room. Over in the backfield, second-year tailback Miles Sanders enters the season as the unquestioned starter after an impressive rookie year that saw him top 800 yards rushing and over 500 yards receiving. Sanders proved his dual-threat capabilities during the preseason and early parts of the regular season before earning 11 starts as a rookie. He has a chance to be this offense what Brian Westbrook was back in the day under Andy Reid. And Philly does a great job of stacking talent at the position with guys who can do similar things. Boston Scott emerged late last season as a solid reserve. He was instrumental in the Eagles' late season victory over the New York Giants. And they get back a healthy Corey Clement, who was big during their run to the Super Bowl back in 2017. Both guys are equally as good as receivers as they are runners. We talked earlier about the enhancements to the receiving corps, but failed to mention that this is still a group with two really good football players in Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, both of which should be 100% and ready to go this season. Last year, in Jackson's return to Philly, he got off to a great start before the injuries rendered him ineffective and inactive for a good portion of the season. Jeffrey missed 6 games due to injury as well and really derailed what could have been a promising year for the guys out there on the perimeter. Adding both guys back healthy along with Jalen Reagor should give the Eagles a potent trio on the perimeter. Now, Reagor has the ability to play inside or outside and is an explosive catch and run guy to go along with one of the best deep threats in the game in Deshaun Jackson. Don't sleep on the growth of second-year wideout JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He played a lot as a rookie, but just didn't see a lot of targets. The lack of targets doesn't mean he isn't a good option. I would suspect that he's in line to take over the Alshon Jeffrey role in a year or two, or join them in the lineup as the team gets inside the red zone. You can have faith in the Eagles staff as far as development is concerned. Heck, we saw it last season with Greg Ward, who stepped in big for them late last year, so I would expect Arcega-Whiteside to break out this season. At tight end, the Eagles have arguably the strongest 1-2 punch in the NFL. Zach Ertz ranks amongst the best at the position, and Carson Wentz's most trusted target. While Ertz finished first on the team in receiving, fellow tight end Dallas Goedert finished second as the former South Dakota State Jackrabbit broke out last season, hauling in 58 receptions for 607 yards and 5 touchdowns. Keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Noah Togiai out of Oregon State. He is very similar athletically to Goddard and could vie for time as the third tight end on the roster. Up front, we spoke about Brandon Brooks and his impact, so let's just start there on the interior. Left guard Isaac Seumalo played really well last season and will now be looked at as a leader at the position. Again, expect Matt Pryor to assume the starting role at right guard, but don't count out second-year player Sua Opeta out of Weber State. The former Wildcat made the team last year as an undrafted rookie free agent and is very strong in the running game. You also have to factor in rookie guard Jack Driscoll out of Auburn. He could be more apt to step in earlier than expected. I thought his tape was good at Auburn on both ends of offense, so it'll be interesting to see how this thing plays out over the summer. Center Jason Kelce enters his 10th season in the NFL and is still one of the best at his position. Quietly, there are some concerns at the tackle position. Lane Johnson isn't a question, as he was stellar in pass pro last year. He's one of the fixtures up front on the right side. The questions are about left tackle Andre Dillard, who is entering his second season out of Washington State. He had some struggles last year as a rookie, which is expected, but the team invested a first-round pick on him, and they expect him to be much further along than he was when he got an opportunity to play. So if he can continue to play up to the level that his talent suggests, then Philly could mitigate the loss of Brandon Brooks very well. They can't have two questionable positions up front along the offensive line. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, starting with the defensive line, the Eagles made a splash in free agency, bringing in former Pittsburgh Steeler Javon Hargrave. There's a sentiment that Hargrave was playing a bit out of position with the Steelers and now will be in a situation that allow him to better utilize his quickness off the ball and ability to pressure the quarterback. Having a guy of the caliber of Fletcher Cox makes everyone's job around him better. Cox is one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL, who's not just a one-dimensional player, he's good on both ends of defense. And Philly gets back a healthy Malik Jackson. After only playing in one game last year, he was injured in the season opener. He gives them another long, athletic pocket collapser on the inside. Keep an eye out for undrafted rookie free agent Raequan Williams out of Michigan State, whose game is very similar to that of Jackson, and one who was playing out of position because of a necessity at Michigan State. I think he'll surprise a lot of folks at training camp. Now on the edges, Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett provide solid pressure off the corner. Both guys combined for 25 TFLs last season, and Barnett really starts to come on strong the latter part of the year. The hope is that both guys, as well as Josh Sweat, continue to make strides in their game as it just helps strengthen the depth of the defensive line as a whole. Speaking of depth, it'll be interesting to see what the team has in store for Jannard Avery this year. He came over midseason via trade with the Cleveland Browns and struggled to find a role initially. He's expected to be a consistent part of their rotation in 2020. It's commonplace for many to say, oh well, the Eagles don't invest in their linebacker position. While there may be some truth to that, it doesn't mean that they don't expect that group to be any less productive. Leading the second level is Nate Jerry, who finished second on the team in tackles. He's got really good athleticism thanks to his background as a college safety at Nebraska. Now, outside of him is where you can start to have some questions about the Eagles linebackers, but one of the potential answers is free agent signee Jatavis Brown, who comes over from the Los Angeles Chargers. I like Brown's game, and I think he can match what Jerry brings to the table at backer. TJ Edwards is another very active linebacker who's also a core special teamer, but I would keep an eye on rookie DAVION Taylor out of Colorado. He's got legit speed, and his tape in college was solid. He has that sideline-to-sideline speed that you look for and does a great job of taking proper angles to the football. Undrafted rookie free agent Dante Olson from Montana, who is a Buck Buchanan Award winner, which is given to the top defensive player at the FCS. He's coming off an excellent career with the Grizz and a strong week at the East-West Shrine Bowl. You can make a legitimate case that the Eagles secondary was talked about as much as the receiving core was over the last couple of seasons, so it's not surprising to see Philadelphia make a lot of moves here as well. We spoke about Darius Slay, but the Eagles also brought in slot corner Nikhil Roby-Coleman from the Los Angeles Rams. He plays a lot like Avonte Maddox, who was their best corner last season, in my opinion, and one who figures to step in to a more prominent role this year. He's got the versatility to play in any spot in the secondary. The hope is that corners Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas can continue to elevate their game to help strengthen the unit as a whole. And I like the overall talent of the group. They just need to, one, stay healthy, and two, find some consistency. Now, the safety position, even with the departure of veteran Malcolm Jenkins, figures to be in good shape. Rodney McLeod is one of the league's most underrated players. He figures to take over that leadership role that was vacated by Jenkins. Jalen Mills plays better at safety than he did at corner and should continue to grow in that role opposite of McLeod. But keep an eye on rookie Kayvon Wallace out of Clemson. He's a player that I really like. He's a lot like Mills in the sense that he can play both safety spots as well as also showing the ability to get down there and cover. In this Eagles defense, which relies heavily on their safeties more than their backers, he figures to play a lot as a rookie, as well as free agent signing Will Parks, who comes over from the Denver Broncos. You won't find a bigger MANASSEH Bailey fan than me, as I've been on the broadcast for many of his games in his collegiate career. He has the explosiveness, the athletic ability, and the upside that you look for at the position, and he starred on special teams, both as a returner and on the coverage units. He'll be the offensive player in camp that I bet money on to be a surprise player. Defensively, I think many would be surprised at the amount of undrafted rookie free agent talent that they brought in at corner and at safety. The Eagles did a stellar job of acquiring talents like Grayson Arnold out of Baylor, Elijah Riley out of Army, Mike Jaquette III out of Louisiana, and Prince Smith from New Hampshire. All of those guys I had very good grades on and will make the coaches have to make some tough decisions this summer. I fully expect wide receiver Jalen Reagor to be the clear-cut offensive rookie impact player for the Eagles. He's a tremendous talent who landed in the situation where he can fit in as opposed to being asked to be quote-unquote the guy from day one. This situation should help him thrive pretty quickly. Defensively, linebacker DAVION Taylor out of Colorado, I feel, will make much more of an impact than most believe. It'll be hard for the team to keep his speed off the field, and he'll reward them by making numerous plays. The Eagles need left tackle Andre Dillard to be very good this season, so almost by default, he's my offensive X factor. They traded up to get him in the first round last year, so they definitely think highly of him and his talent, and he'll have some huge shoes to fill as he's taking over Jason Peters' old spot. On the other side of the ball, I look at Jalen Mills having to play a pivotal role in the secondary this upcoming season. Making the full-time move to safety is one thing, but moving into a spot that was vacated by Malcolm Jenkins and what he meant to that defense is another thing. Mills has to bring consistency with him this year, each and every game. I touched on it earlier, but I do feel like year 2 will be a good one for JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He plays a game that's stylistically similar to Alshon Jeffrey. Again, he played a lot last year, but the difference this season will be that he'll start to garner more targets coming his way. Josh Sweat is ready to break out in my opinion. He has the potential to be an 8-sack type of a guy coming off the bench. If how he finished last season is of any indication, he's primed for a stellar season in 2020. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with feature artist IW and his latest album, Mr. Hunter, which you can find on iTunes and on Spotify. Just search on Spotify, IW Mr. Hunter. You can also find him on Instagram at Do You Music. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Academy of Broadcast Media, located in Hackensack, New Jersey. A reason for optimism for Philadelphia starts with their offense. They're deep and talented on that side of the ball, especially on the perimeter. Their receiving core is deep in my opinion. They have 2 really good tight ends. The backfield is versatile and talented, and they have 2 good quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. And their offensive line quietly still has some good depth behind their frontline starters. So yes, this is a deep, talented offense that you can be optimistic about heading into 2020. Also, they have strong point of attack play, and that's on both sides of the ball. Their offensive line, even with the loss of Brandon Brooks, is still a solid group up front that can help pave a way for the running game. They also give Wentz time back there in the pocket. Defensively, we talked about Fletcher Cox and what he means to this defense. You also look at Brandon Graham getting pressure off the edge. So as long as you're able to play well at the point of attack, you will always have a chance to win. And that's why the Eagles seem to be in the mix more often than not, because of what they do up front along both sides of the line of scrimmage. And you can't discount what they do in special teams. Jake Elliott is one of the best kickers and clutch kickers in the game. And with all of the speed and athleticism they've added at receiver and also in the backfield, their return game is dangerous as well. So they can play good defense, they can play good special teams, they control the line of scrimmage. Their offense is deep and talented. That's why you have a lot of optimism about Philadelphia going into the season. A cause for concern would be if the secondary takes a step back. As much as we've talked about their talent and the improvements they've made from a personnel perspective, if they don't take that next step forward, it could hold back a defense that's going to be strong up front and should be speedy at the second level. And also, if Dillard doesn't take that next step as a left tackle, we saw him struggle last year, and if he doesn't improve in that capacity now being played at left tackle, it could really hinder an offensive line that's going to be without Brandon Brooks at one guard spot. The road to the Super Bowl for the Eagles goes as follows. If Wentz stays injury-free, not only during the season but throughout the playoffs, they can definitely go far. Miles Sanders getting over 1,500 yards of total offense, I think that's very attainable. He was at 1,300 last year with 800 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving. If he can get over 1,200 yards rushing and stay about 500 yards receiving, that offense will be cooking with grease moving forward. And the secondary becomes the no-fly zone with all of the new pieces that they've added and the projected step forward that they are expected to take. If they can become that no-fly zone, become a strength, an asset, and not a liability, the Eagles will find themselves flying down south for the winter. I have the Eagles finishing second in the NFC East. This is a playoff football team. Once again, they will battle it out with the Dallas Cowboys for the first spot. They were able to win that spot last year, and they could be in position to win that spot again this season. Again, when you look at the offensive line, if they can supersede the loss of Brandon Brooks and also look at Andre Dillard taking the next step, their offense will be just fine. Defensively, they'll still play competitive football. They got great special teams. So once again, look for Philadelphia to be one of the better teams in the NFL in 2020. So that's it for our 2020 Philadelphia Eagles team preview. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Gameplan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Gameplan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. That's where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast. And keep it locked on the Football Gameplan Network here on YouTube, where we will have our Football Gameplan starting lineup and our All 22 show breaking down the Philadelphia Eagles both in the film room and for your fantasy lineup. And don't forget about Football Gameplan's Best Bets, where we will take a look at some of the more intriguing prop bets concerning the Philadelphia Eagles heading into the season.
It's D-U-E-U till I see you. By this point you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.